Thank you for joining us today, and we're very pleased to see you all here. I'm Margaret Madden. I'm chair of the Canton-Potsdam Hospital Board of Directors. I want to acknowledge my colleagues on the Canton-Potsdam Hospital Foundation Board, many of whom are here today. The foundation was instrumental in the construction project that resulted in what you see today. We're grateful to all that the foundation does to advance patient care in our community. In a moment, I will introduce one of the newest members of our medical staff, whose remarks will be followed by those of my colleagues on the board, Spencer Thew and Don Dangerman. Then we'll formally dedicate our new addition. Once again, thank you all for coming. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Alicia Van Wagner. Dr. Van Wagner?
Welcome everyone to this beautiful new building. My name is Alicia Van Wagner and I'm a new family medicine physician at Canton-Potsdam Hospital. I'm not new to the area, however. Thanks. I'm not new to the area, having worked in Star Lake before coming here, and of course many of you know my husband, whose ophthalmology practice is in this building. I'd just like to say I'm grateful for this beautiful new practice space. It's important to my patients, and it's important to me. Having modern practice space means a better environment for care and a better environment for staff who spend most of their time at the office. I'm really looking forward to move-in day, and I'd like to thank you again for coming and for your support of high-quality space and high-quality care. Primary care can do a lot to improve the health of the population and community. I'm looking forward to helping people with their health needs, and now I'll have a beautiful space to do that in. Thank you again for joining us today. And now we'll hear from Spencer Thew, member of the CPH Board of Directors.
Thank you. Gotta put down my mixed drink here. I'll probably stumble over it, but it's a pleasure being here. I hadn't anticipated this about 36 hours ago, but I got a phone call last night asking if I'd pinch hit for Mr. Acker, who was in New York City on important CPH business. Well, there's no way that I can pinch hit for Mr. Acker. They gave me his notes, and I read through those, and I realized why I'm not in the medical profession. So I can't speak much to the medical aspects of the project, other than the project was to consolidate a lot of our services into one area that was more centrally located. That's why the building is added onto the existing building back there with a lot of our services. We have room now for 10 more doctors, of which some are already on staff, some are coming, to expand the medical profession that we all enjoy here in the Potsdam-Canton area. I just think it's wonderful what CPH can do. Just a wonderful organization. But since I can't speak to the medical profession much, and I should be teaching construction engineering management at Clarkson right now. I started the class at 4, snuck out at 20 after 4 to come here, so I should just continue with my class and talk about construction. And I will. But the way things happen around Mr. Acker is he gets a vision, and all of a sudden he wants the vision to be a reality. And when I say all of a sudden, I mean all of a sudden. He had a vision for this building a few months ago, a little over a year ago, and finally we were directed to proceed with the project in November. And if anybody is familiar with the construction industry, the way that we typically did business for many years was design, bid, build. And if we'd have taken that route, it would have taken us about 2 years. And Mr. Acker gave us until September 1st, which was about 9 months. So that was a tremendous challenge. We put together some great teams. I want to speak to that a little bit. Brooks Washburn, who I saw earlier, is the architect that does a lot of projects for the hospital. Randy Van Brocklin is our facilities manager. And myself kind of formed a team to represent the hospital in this project. And we sat there scratching our head, how can we possibly do this? We brought a construction manager on board for a short time. Our budget for the entire project all in was $6 million. That includes the furniture, the equipment, the IT, and so on. But our construction budget was $4.5 million. And our construction manager told us we couldn't do the job for less than $6 million. So that really put us in a predicament. So we typically meet on Tuesdays and we scratched our heads. And I think Brooks came up with the idea that, hey, what we got to do is get a local contractor that we trust, that we can depend on to bring the project in on time and on budget. So we proceeded from there. We knew we needed a really good designer. We had LaValle Bressinger on board, which Keith Davis is here someplace. Keith, they have been working with us on our master planning for all of our facilities going into the future. So it was natural to bring him on board for this. One of the other things that happened is Mr. Acker wants our facilities to go to the next level. So every project, we just keep trying to improve and improve and improve. And LaValle Bressinger was certainly up to that task to enhance the construction in our projects as we go into the future. So they were designing, and the only way we could do this was, as they were designing, we needed a contractor that could build it. Again, we didn't have time to take competitive bids. We didn't have time to go out and allow the contractor to get subs to shop suppliers. None of that time was available. So we selected Dankel Construction, who we've had good relationships with in the past, and they were fantastic on this project. Larry came to us. We had a meeting, I think, in a couple of them in December, and Larry said, with 20% drawings, I can do the job for $4.5 million and bring it in on time and on budget. He didn't even know what the building was really ultimately going to look like, and he thought it was going to be just another medical office building. But it's not. If you've walked through, we've got areas in there in the team rooms where we got natural lighting come in. If you look at the interior, we got great finishes. If you look at the exterior, the brickwork is quite different than brickwork you're going to see on other buildings in Potsdam. So there were a lot of extras that I don't think Larry anticipated. But he was a man of his word. We started working through this, and he brought on some excellent subcontractors, and I want to thank him as we go. I want to thank Larry. Larry, raise your hand back there. And he also had Justin Blanchard, who was instrumental in making sure we kept our schedules. But one thing that was important to us is not only did we need the team that could do the job, we had to have trust and transparency. And when I say that, I don't think Larry ever had to share his prices with a client in the past. As we went, Larry shared his prices. He'd put the numbers on the table. This entranceway, for example, Larry didn't anticipate that entranceway. There was a lot of discussion if we were going to have that entranceway. And as we got into the project and we were looking at the entranceway, was $20,000 that Larry didn't have in his budget. So we said, what can we do differently? We ended up with the beautiful wood that you see behind us, $12,000. Guess what? I said to Larry, how are we going to cover that? That's not in the budget. He says, I'll work it into the ceiling. Meant the ceiling tile and all that. So somehow he did that, and I could give you example after example where Larry went out of his way to make sure that we fit that original budget that he had established. So anyway, he brought his subs on that he normally works with, John Patterson, Patterson Electric. I don't know if John's here. And I know that John didn't anticipate the complexity of the electrical systems in the building. But everybody plugged forward, moved forward, resolved problems quickly. Andy Leonard with Empire Northeast. Andy's here someplace. Those guys were responsible for the HVAC, the heating, ventilating, air conditioning, and so on. And don't judge the air conditioning in this room today because it's connected to the urgent care. So the air conditioning is not on in here today, so it might be a little warm. But nevertheless, you can't believe the stress that we put him through to get all the systems in place. It was right down to the bitter end, the air balancing, and so on. We had, one of the things we tried to do going into the project was to keep everything local. We had Jefford Steel do the structural steel. Again, they went out of their way to get the steel here on time. We had Rolock Truss do the truss work. Same thing there. We had Jackson Wood Products over near Chateauguay do all the interior finishes. So, and there were many other, but almost the entire project is done by local people, local suppliers, local contractors. So I want to thank all those people that were involved. The craftsmen, you can't believe it. When Larry started, he started in January. Remember I told you it would typically take a year for design, a year for construction? Larry had from January until September. Okay, I think that's 9 months. We broke ground sometime in late January. His men worked through the cold, out there pounding nails, backfilling. It just goes on and on with the commitment that everybody made. When I walk on the job site in the morning, everybody was cheerful. I walked in this door one morning, there was a whole probably 20 tradesmen sitting there. And I said, good morning, and they all said, good morning, big smile on their face. You don't see that on a lot of construction projects. So the entire team effort was just tremendous. And I just want to thank everybody that was involved with it in order to bring this together. As we go into the future, again, we completed on almost on time, a little bit behind, but it was still remarkable that we did a year and 9 months. The urgent care is going to be finished up in November, and then we're going on with a courtesy suite in the back. So again, thanks to everybody that was involved. Special thanks to the foundation that was able to create the funding, you people that donated to the foundation, creating the funding for the project. Without all of us in this room, it would have never have happened. So it's hats off to everybody, and I'll turn it over to Don.
Thank you, Spence. We have a very exciting announcement to share with all of you this afternoon. And to do that, I was asked to talk a little bit about someone who came to be a very close friend of mine, and a name that you'll all probably recognize, Helen Snell Cheel. So much can and has been said about Helen Snell Cheel. She was a remarkable woman who accomplished a great deal in life by helping others. I first met Helen in 1981 when I began regular visits to see her as part of my donor relations work representing Clarkson. If you were fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to get to know Helen, as I did on a more personal level, you could not help coming to respect and admire this very extraordinary woman. Helen was bright, witty, great intellect, world traveler, and fiercely independent. She was charming and enjoyed and valued her relationships with others. Helen always knew what she wanted and never minced words, telling you how she felt about things. She epitomized the spirit of philanthropy. Helen was generous and found a deep sense of family in the relationships with the people and institutions that she loved. The Emma Willard School and Clarkson University, Valley Hospital in New Jersey, and of course, Canton-Potsdam Hospital. Helen has probably been more recognized locally for her association with Clarkson, who awarded her an honorary degree of science in 1995. Most notable was Helen's enthusiasm and support for the Golden Knight hockey program that play their home games in Cheel Arena. Helen would scour the hockey media guide I would send her each season, which she kept on an end table by her side in her TV room next to a replica Clarkson Zamboni and an autographed hockey stick that had once been presented to her by the team. Helen knew more about the Clarkson hockey program and most of our players than our more seasoned fans here in Potsdam. Quite a few years ago, I joined Helen in Ithaca for a Clarkson-Cornell hockey game at Liner Rink, along with Mike Azzara, who was a Cornell graduate and longtime CEO at Valley Hospital. Mike was a very special friend to Helen as well, and a Cornell hockey enthusiast. What a night. Each year, Mike and Helen shared a friendly bet on the Clarkson-Cornell game. Mike had escorted Helen to Ithaca so she could see her first Clarkson hockey game in person. Unfortunately, the game did not go well for the Golden Knights. We lost 10-2, and all three goaltenders had seen ice time that night. I had hoped we'd have a better outcome with Helen in attendance, but despite the loss and losing her bet with Mike, Helen enjoyed meeting the other Clarkson fans and just being a part of the action that night. But on our way out of the building with the other dejected Clarkson fans, Helen leaned toward me with a grin on her face and quipped, "How much does it cost to buy a new goaltender?" True story. What was heartwarming about Helen was her modesty about her philanthropic activities and the tremendous impact of her gifts to her favorite institutions. While I know Helen would deeply appreciate our being here today to celebrate her legacy, I also know that she would have much preferred us not fussing over her and would have advised us that our time this afternoon might have been better spent staying home with our families. She resisted being the center of attention, and Helen simply would not want to think that she had troubled us in any way over all of this. That said, a bit more about you, Helen. She'll forgive me for this. Helen Snell was born in Potsdam in 1904. A graduate of the Emma Willard School in Troy, she attended the Crane School of Music at SUNY Potsdam and graduated from Columbia University. In 1928, Helen married Harold W. Cheel, a Yale graduate, in a ceremony at the Potsdam Presbyterian Church. Mr. Cheel was a successful developer of residential property in Hohokus, New Jersey, where Helen resided until her death at age 100. Mr. Cheel predeceased her, as did their only children, son Bertrand and daughter Barbara Ann. Helen's parents were community leaders in the truest sense. Her father, U.S. Congressman Bertrand Hollis Snell, represented Northern New York in Congress from 1915 until 1939, and was minority leader of the U.S. House of Representatives for the last 8 of those years. He joined the Board of Trustees at Clarkson in 1911 and served for several decades, including board chair from 1920 until 1945. Helen's mother, Sarah Merrick Snell, was a member of the original founding board of directors of the Potsdam General Hospital in the 1920s. Our hospital provided care to her in her later years. The inpatient and outpatient physical therapy departments of the hospital both are named in Snell's honor. As an adult, Helen Snell Cheel carried on her family's generosity toward Canton-Potsdam Hospital, making annual gifts and larger contributions to the hospital's emergency department campaign in the mid-1980s, the inpatient chemical dependency detoxification program in the 1990s, and the Building on Excellence project in the early 2000s. Helen lived her long life to the fullest, actively navigating the worlds of education, politics, world travel, theater, and music, all of which she thrived on. Although Helen Snell Cheel moved away from the North Country when she was only a teen, she never really left Potsdam behind. Helen always appreciated the community and the people who had been so dear to her family and that had been instrumental in the success of the Snell business enterprises in the area. Helen was deeply proud of her roots here in Potsdam and the Snell family legacy. Through her philanthropy, Helen has preserved the Snell legacy and has since established a legacy of her own when, upon her death, she bequeathed $5.7 million to the Canton-Potsdam Hospital, the largest gift ever in our history and truly a transformational gift for an institution our size. So it's with great respect and in recognition of her extraordinary and lifelong devotion to our community and to the hospital that we are very pleased today to hereby name this property at 49 Lawrence Avenue the Helen Snell Cheel Medical Campus.